Yo, what's going on? Freddie J back with another video. And if you haven't heard, Microsoft just recently did their podcast detailing pretty much the future of Xbox and what they're going to be doing going forward after the whole Activision, Blizzard, uh, and ZeniMax acquisitions and a couple of the acquisitions that they made. But it's kind of a little bit of older news now, but let's just get right into it. So Xbox just had a podcast. It was the first of its kind. Now the official Xbox podcast. I don't know if they're going to be doing more of them, but it kind of seems like they're pointing in the direction of probably having these types of videos in the future. Besides that, though, the leadership team at Xbox got on a video to explain in the podcast form what the future of Xbox will be. And based on Phil Spencer, a lot of the things that he was saying, Xbox is focused on growing. That is the main objective for Xbox. That's what they're focused. They're focused on growing their business, just like mostly every business, right? Growth is the objective, because it's a business. The point is to get paid. So Phil Spencer is saying that the objective for Xbox is to grow. How they're going to be doing that is by focusing on three subcategories. Xbox is focused on having a healthy player community, a healthy creator community, and a healthy business. And in the podcast, they went more in depth into how they're focusing on those things. So let's get into a healthy player community. Xbox has been preaching this goal of letting players play anywhere for a while now. That's been a tagline for theirs for a while. And even Phil Spencer said that it has been, and sometimes it kind of changes along those lines of how they're saying it, but it's practically the same thing. They want players to play anywhere, with the caveat being not necessarily always PlayStation and Nintendo, especially since they are their competitors. But Xbox goal is to allow you to play on Xbox consoles, play on uh, TVs, for example, through the app, uh, through PC, having Game Pass on multiple platforms, but mostly on Xbox, and even putting some of their games on PlayStation, Nintendo, just so the players on those platforms can experience some of those Xbox published games. With all of these acquisitions, Xbox is the biggest publisher pretty much around now. Just with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, which is astronomically huge, they own a lot of the biggest titles that's out there now. One of the main reasons for them, for Xbox even doing a podcast and releasing and detailing all this information on the podcast, is because of the pushback and the feedback that they've been getting from some of the gaming community, mostly Xbox players. Xbox players don't feel appreciated, and it took a while for them to get to this point. But Xbox and Phil Spencer have always been saying that they were going to push their games. They want to have players play anywhere. So a way they can do that is, again, as I described earlier, uh, letting players play Xbox games on TVs, on mobile, on PC, but also putting some of their published games on PlayStation and Nintendo. They haven't specifically stated which titles are coming, but Phil Spencer said that they will be doing four, and that will be it. It will be four titles that will be coming to other platforms. Now, that's not something to really take to heart, because it is a business, and obviously this is more of a testing to see how other titles will do. Most likely, it's not just going to be four titles, but Phil Spencer is saying it's only going to be four. They're only focusing on four titles right now. Most likely, there are going to be other titles going to PlayStation, Nintendo. But the main thing to take away from this is that everything besides their biggest titles, like a Starfield or like an Indiana Jones, which those are two titles that they specifically mentioned in the podcast. Those two titles will not be coming to other platforms. Maybe a Halo, maybe a Gears of War, and maybe a Forza will stay on Xbox platforms as well. And quite honestly, then you'll have five big titles, five big franchises that are still exclusive to Xbox, and not truly exclusive because they're going to be on PC as well, but still in that ecosystem. However, there are chances that those games could be coming to another platform as well. My personal opinion, I feel like Xbox deserves a lot of the feedback that they get because it's for right reasons. Xbox and Phil Spencer specifically have mentioned the same things as far as their strategy of letting players play anywhere, but they have also reneged on a lot of the promises that they were saying. For example, having one big title being released, in every quarter. So theoretically, you'll have four, if not three, big titles releasing from Xbox, and Phil Spencer said this years ago, but that never happened. They're starting to get to it, but he said that years ago, and that's something that they reneged on. Just as an example, going back to my opinion, even with all of that said, I do feel as though Xbox approach now after acquiring these companies and being pretty much the largest publisher there is, gaming publisher, I do think that their head is in the right direction. I kind of predicted that some of these games would be going to other platforms anyway. And to be honest with you, why not? Now, some feedback would be that some Xbox players just don't. Well, majority of Xbox players don't support the games that they are releasing because if these games were selling a lot or to Xbox target, then most likely these games would have been exclusive. But even still, even if these games were selling pretty good, it's a good thing to have exclusivity, but being as though Xbox have so many IPs and so much under their belt now, which also was a turn of events due to what happened in the past. Xbox not delivering on quality titles, so they had to bank on the quantity of it. I do feel as though this may be the right move, especially since Xbox other business goal is to uh you know especially since Xbox goal is to grow their business in general, and gone are the times where the console was selling a console was the main objective. Us as gamers, as consumers, we are or we should have been looking forward to the quality of the games, the software, because that's what we benefit from the most, the games. And in the past, selling a console was the biggest entry point for people to get to these games. In the past, Microsoft, Sony, they will be selling these consoles at a loss and they will make up for it from the software. As time go on, we know that technology gets cheaper. So that's not the rat race that they are positioning themselves in anymore. We are in a new day and age in this industry where the technology has advanced to where you could probably put an app on a TV. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think that should be anyone's focus. I think the main focus should be the console, which Xbox is saying. Phil Spencer is saying that is still that's a critical component in the market in Xbox's strategy, which it should. But Xbox being in a position that they are in, they're not directly competing with Sony and Nintendo on the hardware side as much. Nintendo actually, even though even though Nintendo has always been innovative with their hardware, probably since the beginning of time, Nintendo has kind of got out of that direct competition with the others as far as hardware manufacturer as well. If I can predict, I would think that Xbox would probably continue to try to make the most powerful console, only because it seems like it has been working with their strategy. And one big detail about their strategy, how the console being the most powerful would be effective for them, is the back compatibility. Now they did take away that program. I believe that they're going to bring it back at some point. I mean, you might as well. They done did so much of the work, uh, and of course there are other details about that as well, as far as licensing fees and agreements with other people and companies. But still, since they have already put in a lot of that work with backwards compatibility, and you can honestly just put in a disc into one of the most recent Xbox consoles and play it, not just play it, but be able to play it at a higher fidelity and a higher frame rate. A lot of times, the hardware is actually increasing the value of that game, even though the game has already decreased in value and it's of older time. So that is one thing that I feel like that they should keep focusing on. As far as having it being the most powerful, look, Sony didn't already prove that you don't have to be the most powerful console to get the most out of that console. To be honest with you, Sony is pretty much king with that, because even since the PS2, Sony has innovated their consoles as well. They have, honestly, even since the PS1, when it came to CD-ROM, right? Sony has innovated with their consoles and not focusing on just power, but how can we get the most power out of what we have? What is the most creative thing we can do? Of course, giving the praise to Mark Cerny on that. But look at the PS5. It's not the most powerful thing, and is it the most valuable console that they have that they had? PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5. That's a debate for another story. Still, the PS5 has been doing things, or at least it is designed in a certain way to get either the same results or better results, instead of just putting brute force power into the machine. So they might as well. I'm not the Xbox might as well continue doing what they doing, as far as to put trying to put their games, I guess, everywhere. I'm actually not in. I'm not fully for that, because I really don't think that streaming is game streaming games on a cloud is not really the best solution, and that's probably not going to be for a while. I've always been in the boat of streaming is just not the way. Even when Sony does it, even when PlayStation do it, streaming games is not the way. Mobile gaming is not really the way. I have always thought, ever since the Steam Deck came out, honestly, even a little bit before the Steam Deck, because I always wanted something like the Steam Deck. But ever since the launch of the Steam Deck, Xbox should have been focused on not just a console, but a hybrid, right? Of course, they took a lot of those ideas. I won't say they took a lot of ideas, but the Switch is a big influential part of that. But still, Xbox is from Microsoft. It's owned by Microsoft. You know, why not go into that PC realm, right? They already putting a lot of their software on PC, right? They are putting all of the software games into a subscription service as far as Game Pass. Why not have the support of the hardware with that as well? You already got backwards compatibility, right? So the longevity of older titles. Let's push this step further. Why not have a mobile device, or a hybrid console, right? That can run Windows, something that's portable, something that is natively an Xbox that is fully optimized, right? Because it has to be optimized, but also get into that competition of the mobility of it, like a Steam Deck, like a Asus ROG Ally. There are so many competitors now. Microsoft is the biggest competitor if they compete. Go into that, dive into that. I think that would interest something like that would interest me. That would interest a lot of other people, to be honest with you. And Microsoft have Game Pass now. There's so much surrounding Game Pass, so much feedback, so much insight into Game Pass, and there's a lot of research done on it now as well because Xbox Game Pass been here for a while, and they have been putting day and date titles on Game Pass for a minute now. Look, it's a subscription service. Forget the gaming industry. Subscription services aren't the most revenue generating. It's not. It has been so much fiasco with these subscription services. It's ridiculous, and it was kind of predicted, but still, Xbox is leading into Game Pass as they always have been doing. And it's not going to change. Some people in the community have been predicting that they put Game Pass onto PlayStation and Nintendo. It seems like from the podcast that is not the goal at all. Game Pass is going to be focused on Xbox consoles and of course PC. That's what they said in the podcast. Whether it coming to fruition or not, whether it's true or not, who knows? However, my opinion on it. Look, I've always had the same stance on these subscription services. I've talked about it in Twitter Spaces. I've talked about it on this channel sometimes. In my opinion, for the most part, is that the subscription service can be helpful if used in the right way. I never agreed with Xbox putting their titles day and date in the subscription service. It just doesn't seem right. Why put something that you can sell for $60 or $70? And nowadays you can organize the software to where you can charge $40 or $50 for it. That's how the developers make the game, of course. But still, you can make a little smaller, smaller titles. PlayStation has Helldivers 2 right now, which they sold for $40, and we're getting quality experiences, but it's not a game that was made to be sold at a $60 or $70 price tag. But it works. It worked extremely well. Microsoft got Crash Bandicoot, from Sony. Microsoft got Spyro the Dragon from Sony. Now, Sony didn't own them, but still, these were Sony. These were PlayStation titles at one point. Those are the types of games that if you was to make new games of those franchises, those would be perfect games to put day and date into subscription services. Also, my opinion on a subscription service, they should have been used for older titles. They should have been focused for older titles. Just going over to the PlayStation side, just to compare, just might as well, right? Before they came out with their subscription services, I held spaces on this. I held spaces on before we knew all the details and before we actually got the new revamped subscription PlayStation Plus. Put your older games on there. That's what it should be for. It should be for PlayStation. The PS3 games, the PS2 games, the PS1 games. Focus on those, putting those on there. Let us be able to go to a store and digitally download these games whenever we want to, and we can play whenever we want to. If I have to pay a subscription for that, sure, I'll pay it. You give people more options and more freedom instead of locking newer games and pretty much the entire industry into the subscription. Let that be focused on the history, on the longevity of games. And then you have other games like, let's just go over to the Sony side, right? You have games like Shadow Warrior 3, right, which was day and date. It wasn't a PlayStation game. It wasn't PlayStation published, but it was a third party game that released day and date because it didn't seem like that the studio had a lot of faith into the game, and it was kind of a smaller title, especially from the other entries in the game. That's kind of a better example of, hey, let's put that day and date into a subscription service. Okay, cool. Or smaller titles. If Sony ever came out with a Jack and Dexter, I won't say Jack and Dexter, but if Sony ever came out with another Sly Cooper game, that can be a perfect game. You can put day and day into a subscription service. And you can still charge people for it too. You can charge people $30, $40 for it. Heck, even if you wanted to, you can get away with charging someone $50 for it. I don't. It all depends on exactly how they design the game. We don't have it just yet, but still, like from previous entries, that could be something that you can potentially charge $40 or $50 for, and still have it in a subscription service where it will sell some type of way. You will get a sale some type of way. You will get somebody subscribing for a month for, or maybe subscribe for 3 months for it. They subscribe for a month. They let it go for 3 months because they didn't get around to beating the game yet. And now you got 3 months from a 3 month purchase of the subscription service from a consumer. It's all about the freedom. It's all about not locking us into something that we're not going to use. I understand it is a business, but on the consumer side, it's definitely it definitely has its advantages for the business by letting the consumers, you know, ingest into just how much they want to instead of forcing our hand on things. There was a reason why PlayStation and even Xbox, forget the gaming industry again. All the subscription service and the dawn of time of subscription services that have, or at least the ones that have been made, and Disney Plus, Netflix, all these subscription services, every single one of them increase in price. Now everything increases in price. I understand that, dealing with inflation and everything, but these subscription services aren't increasing in price just because of inflation. They are increasing in price because these companies are losing money, and rightfully so. Xbox also, or Phil Spencer also has stated that one of the ways to grow Xbox, grow the business of Xbox, is to have a healthy creator community. So that would be an upside to some of these subscription services like Game Pass, especially Game Pass. You will allow creators to be able to dive into the ecosystem day one and a lot from your past. So, that's self-explanatory, and it seems like Xbox is leading by example by having this podcast. You know, Creators usually are the ones that have podcasts, not these businesses like that. But of course, Xbox is a company, and there's a lot of PR spent on this. So Xbox has always tried to gain the trust of their fan base and their community. And to be honest with you, that's a big reason why Xbox is in the places they're in right now. That is the reason why, directly the reason why Xbox has such a mess right now. Not saying that they shouldn't, you know, focus on creators, or that is a bad thing. That's one of the pillars right now. That's good. It's good to be able to allow creators to give them the tools so they can have more of the freedom to create. That's only going to promote the Xbox brand more. It's free. It's free marketing, but still, Xbox is a business, and a lot of this is PR spin. If you've been following my Twitter, you will know that as time went on, after creating the videos I've had on YouTube, I actually became a market researcher for the Hollywood movie studios. I was pretty much I was one of the people in charge of helping the Hollywood studios to make money, to help them advertise, and to get the most bang for the buck out of the product that they had. I had an idea that I was mentioning on Twitter when this whole Activision Blizzard thing was first announced, right? When when we first heard Microsoft was buying them, right? Or even the rumors, because we heard rumors before we heard the official reports, right? And one of the ideas I had was, just Call of Duty is one of the biggest franchises of all time. Uh, Let me put gaming franchises, but still, I had an idea since we were discussing this on Twitter, right? The gaming community on Twitter was discussing this as far as what should they do with Call of Duty? What are they going to do with Call of Duty? We know that Xbox has previously said that they will be putting all their games on Game Pass day and date. Call of Duty is now officially an Xbox game. It will be published by Xbox, by Microsoft. So, one idea that I had was to keep doing it annually. Right? I don't think that they're going to stop releasing Call of Duty annually. From the data, it's been working. Maybe not every year is more successful than the previous, but at the end of the day, Call of Duty makes money. It prints money, point blank. So they can still do it annually, but I believe that they should focus on certain aspects of it annually. Look, it's already coming to Game Pass, so we can throw out the, oh, we getting less of a Call of Duty for the same price. They're going to sell it individual, at a individual RSVP as well, but it's going to be in Game Pass. So why not separate the aspects of Call of Duty? Why not release Call of Duty in a form where the campaigns are coming annually and the multiplayer is what stops being annually? And it makes perfect sense to me. Why? Because one, they can then focus on the campaigns. The Call of Duty campaigns were great in my opinion. I love the Call of Duty campaigns. I played mostly all the Call of Duty campaigns twice, normal then veteran. Sometimes I started on hardened and then went to veteran, but I want to get the trophies and everything. So I played those on. I played the campaigns twice on the second time on veteran. There were probably three Call of Duties I have not owned in my life, and I mean after Call of Duty 4 and after. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. But they should focus on the campaigns, have those released annually. That way we can get something, go back to the quality. As of late, the campaigns haven't been consistently great like they were. No, the Modern Warfare campaigns, you can argue for, but and I mean the recent Modern Warfare campaigns you can argue for, but all in all, they haven't really been consistently great like they have. Well, now, release those annually. They can come in Game Pass annually. People won't have to complain, right? Oh, another Call of Duty because that's been a lot of talk of the town too, right? For years, another Call of Duty, another Call of Duty, another Call. It's the same thing, same thing, same thing. Well, it would be okay if it's the same thing if they still had great stories, right? Data has showed that people mostly play the multiplayer, not the campaign. But there are the people that play the campaign, they love it. So that's a perfect solution for Game Pass. You literally have a Q4 or however the business model is, Q3 or Q4 big title every single year. It's consistent. You already have multiple studios working on it. It's not as much pressure. And then for the multiplayer, you can you can keep the same thing. Look, we don't need war zones. We don't need a Warzone 3.0. It's almost like it's a different game, but it still plays the same. We're already in the state of live service games, right? Live service games. Modern Warfare, or excuse me, Call of Duty Warzone is one of the biggest live service games that's out there. You already have Warzone 2.0. Well, let's make Warzone 3.0 and have it released in the next 2 or 3 years, right? That way you have 2 or 3 years of working on the same multiplayer add in all the content that you would like to add, which they have. They go crazy with the content, right? But you're not under this pressure of, oh, let's bring back all of these assets, right? Let's bring back all of the things that we have already put into Warzone, right? Because Call of Duty 2.0, Warzone 2.0, with it being a mix of a lot of the first Warzone, it jumbled it up. It made it unbalanced. It made it, now granted, some people argue that this is a better version, and it's some aspects I can say that too. But when it first released, it was kind of broken, you know, and content didn't really come out as smoothly as it should have. I'll mostly be on zombies, and that's another pillar of the aspect, right? You can do something with zombies. You can have that be a annual thing, but if it's annually, you can have 1 year where it's like the old style Call of Duty zombies, right? Where you got those set maps, it's not open world, the wave base, and then maybe the next year you can do another like big multiplayer one, right? The previous year's zombies, they can release map packs for that, and then after that year is up, then it's, hey, that's it. We ain't gonna support it. We ain't gonna support it no more. You can probably keep the servers up still, but hey, we're done supporting that. We moving on to the next zombies. That way it'd be a fresh experience too. Or you don't even have to release it annually. You can release that 2 years, three. Even if it's not a set deadline, there are pillars to Call of Duty that can benefit Xbox with them having Game Pass if Xbox use those pillars to their advantage. We don't have to have the same Call of Duties how they've been, because we haven't. The Call of Duty has changed. Zombies, the Modern Warfare 3 zombies, or Call of Duty zombies, as you if they call it now, it's so confusing, right? It's not the same thing that we had. And change is good, but you gotta make the change be good. So to top everything off, for to really get to express what my main opinions are about this is, of course, the Call of Duty. Let's do something different. Call of Duty. Mostly going back into the roots is really just what what I think Xbox should do is change the uh, change the output of Call of Duty, but the design of the game, I think they should focus on going back to their roots. And I don't just mean boots on the ground. I mean actually the design core elements of Call of Duty with the pillars of the survival modes, zombies, um, the campaigns, the multiplayers, or with Warzone. Like, you can do so much different things with that now, but go back to how they usually played, and how they usually played as far as quality wise, and as far as Microsoft as a business. I really thought that they should just focus on Xbox and PC. Like this whole going mobile and focusing on a cloud, and putting yourself on apps on a TV. Like, I understand that that's the future, but like that stuff could have been tucked away. That stuff could have been that didn't need to be in the forefront. It's kind of the same thing what I think PlayStation should do. You know, but I've always said that PlayStation should focus on their console, keep doing PlayStation should keep doing what they're doing. But add some games to PC. Never day and date. I want to say never. The live service games and all that. That's another conversation for another day, right? But still, since Xbox is owned by Microsoft, and we already know how involved Microsoft is in the PC space. I mean, let's be real, right? Leverage that, use that. You know, uh, Sony didn't have to do it to the same extent as Microsoft, but since Microsoft is already in that business, use that. Go into that. They didn't really need to do all this, but now since we're here, I mean, hey, it is what it is. Microsoft has the console wars are pretty much over. You know, and Microsoft need to dive into what makes Xbox Xbox. Now they need to have they it seems like they defined their identity already. They need to show up for that identity so that people can have confidence in the identity because people don't have confidence in it no more. It is what it is. This is the gaming industry we live in now. So this is the world we live in now. So with all that being said, thank you for tuning in. This is, I guess, history in the making right now with Xbox because they are going into another segment of their brand, and we're all here to see it now. So let's see what they got coming up forward, and we'll go from there. Make sure y'all check out any of my other videos. Follow me on Twitter. Keep up with a lot of the latest things. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Hit the bell notification so you know when I'm uploading. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.